are listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show, bringing you the latest news and commentary on baseball.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out! The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball!
Hockey.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers are going to win the Stanley Cup! The Flyers win the Stanley Cup!
College football.
The Big Ten championship lies on a measurement.
Did he get it? No! He didn't get it! Penn State holds!
They brought back the fun, they brought back the excitement, and now they've brought back a Big Ten championship. The Penn State Nittany Lions are Big Ten champions.
And the NFL.
9 seconds left. Eagles by 8. Brady lines them up. He's back again. He steps up. He's hit. He stumbles. He is throwing it deep for the end zone, and it is batted around and incomplete. And the game is over. The game is over. The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you. Let the celebration begin.
Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffa.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 267 of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. I am one of your hosts, Joe Mays, and sitting next to me, my co-host, Justin Raffoff.
Yeah, it's crazy. Every time when you read off the number, it's still like crazy to me. 260 something, and then you know all the different directions this has gone. You know, when we add in those numbers, like it's crazy. We've done this a few times.
Just a few, yeah, you're right. It's been a couple.
Yeah, and it's fun every time.
Give or take.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're back again. We missed last week. I was at a Wilson football end of the year banquet, so that was a lot of fun. It was cool to see the seniors get their Letterman jacket and receive the awards they've earned not only this year but through the course of their career, and just celebrate the season that was, and kind of finally put a full bow on the 2018 season. And now they'll have about 2 weeks off, and then 2019 starts. Literally, New Year's and new football season, because they will get to work. I mean, technically, they've already started work for next year, but once that banquet ends up, they'll take a few weeks off, and they'll get back to lifting plyos, morning films, you name it, it's happening. Basically, if you don't have other sports responsibilities or, after school academic endeavors, you have stuff beforehand and afterwards with Wilson football.
Yeah, so yeah, it's kind of crazy how it kind of gets to that point, and when you're talking about that point in high school football, we're also talking about late in the year for NFL football and college football. Bowls season has started officially yesterday. I think there were 5 or 6 yesterday.
Yeah, there were a few because I watched some of the one with Arizona State.
Yeah.
Was it Arizona State, Fresno State?
Yes. Yep.
There was a couple others that I paged through.
I picked them all right yesterday.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I didn't. We should have done.
And I did. So I did a thing where I did the confidence picks.
Okay.
Which is super hard, and I don't like doing. But I had my 30. There's 39, and I had 34 and 35 that I got right.
Nice.
I had Utah State, and they won big, and I had Appalachian State, and they won big. So
yes.
I also hit on my number 1 because I knew nothing about it. North Carolina A&T coming up big.
Nice. Excellent.
Yeah.
So I don't. Actually, did Penn State know they were playing last time we were on the show? They were playing Kentucky in the Citrus Bowl. I can't remember. 2 weeks ago.
I think they did because I think it came out earlier in the day.
Earlier that day. So, so that's not really new information, but related to the confidence index that Justin just mentioned, the two of the college football writers from The Athletic went through the confidence rankings of the 39 bowl games, and one of them, I think it was Feldman. I texted it to you, but I don't remember if it was Feldman or Mandel.
I think it was
Feldman. Both of them, I believe, had Penn State winning, but
Feldman
had as his highest confidence at 39. So
I saw Benny Snell, the running back for Kentucky, declared for the draft, but he is
did,
going to play.
and he is still going to play. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Same thing. Well, I don't know. Is there linebacker? Is he even draft eligible?
I don't know.
I don't know. Ever since I left Draft Tech, my knowledge of the pro-ready people has gone out the window, unfortunately. But yeah, it's isn't it also Josh Allen as like the quarterback from the Bills, and linebacker from Kentucky? So yeah, the Nittany Lions are going to get to see a great running back and an incredible linebacker.
Yeah.
So they're going to have their hands full for sure, but people think that they're going to come through and get to
yeah, I hope so. That would be awesome.
with double-digit wins.
Double-digit win, beat an SEC team. All of those are good things. Yeah, we'll see.
I would love it to happen.
Right. I'm not as confident as that. I'm hopeful, but I wouldn't say I'm confident. Does that make sense?
No, I get it. Yeah, I'm with you on that.
That's generally how I have my fandom for Penn State, though, is more hopeful than confident.
Right. Yeah, that describes us to a T for
Yes.
sure. So, anything else college related? We've kind of seen a quasi push for an 18 playoff.
Yeah.
Which would be wonderful. I mean, I think my ultimate dream is 16, but I would settle for 8.
I think I heard an interesting take this week, and it's somebody who is a supporter of 4, and they said they can get behind 8, but that you're not guaranteed to be. There's still no guarantee for conference champion. Essentially, and their point was, argue to me that a 3-loss Washington deserves to be in the 18 playoff. And I agree. Like, I think if you are a 2-loss champion, then, you're probably getting in, you know what I mean? But
well, the one scenario that they put forth was to eliminate conference championship games.
Right.
Which I don't know exactly how that would work because
then you're not playing everyone
right.
in your
Each conference would have to come up with tiebreaker scenarios then. Like, how do you determine who's the conference champion if they both go through the conference undefeated?
Yeah, which would happen all the time. See,
especially in the Big Ten.
It would have worked better 10 years ago when we didn't have the big conferences.
Right.
Like now.
Now it's like the super conferences need to go away because you can't play round robin everyone.
Right.
I mean, you couldn't in the Big Ten as it is now. You can't play 13 teams in the regular season, and that's what Penn State would have to do.
Right.
Obviously, we look through this, a Nittany Lion focus, but the Big Ten can't do that.
Right.
So
and the SEC can't do it, and the Pac-12 can't do it.
Right.
Like the ACC can't do it.
So I mean,
there's a lot to work through.
The current,
I would have no problem with the highest. Well, no, I guess. I don't know. I guess you could put a clause in there that like the highest ranking team from each conference. That because if Northwestern won the Big Ten championship, they didn't necessarily deserve to get in the playoff, even if it was 8 teams.
Right.
However, I mean, I guess you could argue they do. Like, I don't know.
I don't know. We'll see. I'm just readjusting.
Yeah. I won 8. I won 8. We talked about 16. I think we walked through what that would look like, and that would have been incredible. But 8 would be fantastic. And I honestly don't see a reason not to do it. People say, like, I think the worst and laziest argument for this is, oh, well, it'll depreciate the value of
the regular season. Yeah.
No, the regular season already means nothing because look at the last week of the regular season. Everybody already said if Alabama loses, they're still in.
Right.
Okay, well, then you're telling me that game means nothing. And that's a rivalry game.
Right.
And you told me that means nothing. Look at the other hand. Ohio State beat Michigan, supposedly the best defense in the country. They put 60 on them, and it didn't matter. So, that game didn't matter either. Now, I understand they lost to Purdue earlier in the year, but, like, you already have meaningless games.
Right.
UCF hasn't lost in 2 years, and they're not invited to come in. Now, like, there are you can make other arguments as to why UCF shouldn't be in. Like, that can be done. But to argue that adding 8 teams to the playoff will make the regular season meaningless is a lazy take, in my opinion. There are legitimate... You can make legitimate cases for why it should be 4. I think saying it depreciates the regular season is the worst take.
Is the most
Maybe not the worst, but it is a lazy take.
Is the most games you can play right now, depending on conferences and things like that, 15? So, like, you play 12 regular
Yeah.
season, a conference championship, then possibly 2 CFP games.
Yeah.
So, they would have to make it 12 total games with or without a conference championship
Right.
to do an 8-team playoff. So, you'd have to lose it. I don't understand. I mean, I shouldn't say I don't understand. I do understand.
Well,
But
well,
get rid of the non-conference games.
wouldn't it be interesting if it was like basketball, where like the conference kind of, I think in there the conference kind of decides who gets their automatic bid. So like the Ivy League,
Oh,
for
boy.
example, the Ivy League
Do we
has
really
is
want
their-
Delaney in charge of?
No, but like how crazy would that idea be? Where they're just like, all right, SEC, you get a spot, you decide how you want to figure it out. You know, Pac-12, you get a spot, you decide how you want to figure it
Well,
out.
don't most of them the postseason playoff conference playoffs?
Basically,
is how they
it's the
decide.
Ivy League that doesn't, because I don't think they have the tournament. I think it's the regular season Ivy League winner gets the title. Because I don't believe they have a tournament, so it is just the regular season.
Yeah, because they one of the conferences
I
that
think that's
like
the only one.
when the conference tournaments start up, they're like the first team is already known. Because
Yeah, they already know them
they're
because
done.
they've already played.
Yeah.
But anyway, like it's just an interesting thing to kind of think about. I would love to see 8. You know, and even from the Penn State point of view, that wouldn't change anything for them this year.
Right.
You know, like they'd still be out, and not making an argument for them to be 8, but I think it should be 8.
I don't know where that's coming from.
I don't hear it out here.
That's really weird. Because it was a Star Wars theme.
Yes, yes, I heard it.
And it's not coming from inside the room, but it is in our headsets. And I don't have anything else up.
I don't know.
Okay, then, let's move on. So, we have NFL to discuss, and as I alluded to prior to the show, Week 15 is basically over.
Yeah.
How crazy is that?
Thank you very much. That's why December's terrible, especially this late
No,
in December.
December
this week in
is-
December is probably like the worst week of December.
December is the best. December is the absolute
Does
best.
not compare to July, especially that third week of July, like All-Star break July.
Let's fix my mistake here. It's not episode 27. That was back in 2011.
Yeah, we've
So-
also invented time travel.
Yes, we've gone back in time.
Yeah.
So here, that should be
Unfortunately,
a little
has
bit
not helped our predictions at all.
better. Right. So we had an incredible game Thursday night, featuring 2 of the AFC West best, two of the best in the AFC period. It seems that
To make
we
the argument, they are the two best.
undersold the Chargers at the beginning of the year, even though
Yeah.
we were both pretty high on
Okay,
them.
and I gotta be honest about this, and I think I talked about it before a little bit a couple weeks ago. Phillip Rivers is becoming that guy that I used to trash all the time because I couldn't stand him. And the longer he plays and the way he plays, the more I find myself kind of liking Phillip Rivers. There are things he does that I don't like. I don't like that he like loses his mind, but at the same time, I'm just like,
But that's no different than Brady
or
even
any of them.
even Peyton.
Right,
Like
any
it's
of them.
all those like
Or Rodgers, or
where is this coming
it's
from?
like the radio or something.
That's so
It
weird.
sounded like a commercial.
All right. Anyway,
I don't know what's going on.
I don't know either. So, Chargers score with
Yeah.
4 seconds to play and go for
it.
2.
Right. Look at their last 2 road wins.
Huge.
Yeah, they beat the Steelers and beat the Chiefs.
In comeback fashion.
Yeah.
So the
They were
Chargers
down
are for real.
They were down 14 in both.
Yeah.
I think they were down 14 3 times this year, and they've come back and won.
So it's definitely not the Chargers of late. And we kind of saw this building
It's
last
crazy.
year where they
Now-
should have been better than they were.
Right.
They finished 7-9 or 8-8, and there were like 3 or 4 games that
So-
they probably should have
Right,
won.
and so you look at this, and you're like, all right, well, I heard somebody saying the other day the Chargers have the tiebreaker, but I thought the Chiefs had the tiebreaker. Isn't the first tiebreaker for the division your divisional record?
Divisional record.
And I think the Chiefs have only lost 1 divisional game. They lost to the.
Well, they've lost to the Patriots. They lost to the Chargers. Who was their third loss?
I don't know.
Who else did the Chiefs lose to?
I don't remember.
Wow, yeah, I'm drawing a blank. Did they lose to the Rams? They lost to the Rams.
Right. So they've only lost one divisional game.
Two in the AFC.
Right.
And the Chargers lost to. I have no idea who the Chargers lost to. Did they lose to the Chiefs the
They
first
lost
time?
to the Chiefs the first time. I thought
So
they
it's
lost to
split.
Denver once. So they have 2 losses in the division still. So I'm not exactly sure. I think the Chiefs have the tiebreaker, though. However, I think the Chiefs... I'm trying to think. The Chiefs have to play someone this week. Oh, they go to Seattle, I think. And Seattle just lost today in overtime. We'll talk about that. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler.
But,
I'm trying to see if I can pull up some more information on these teams. It's not working out real well here. Might have to go a different route. But yeah, so Chargers Chiefs was a huge game to kick off Week 15, and then we actually had 2 games yesterday,
and I loved everything.
which was fun. Without
and they weren't necessarily great games, but they were exciting.
Well,
games.
they weren't great matchups, but they were exciting games.
Right.
Well, first Texans Jets, and I thought the Texans had this one in the bag, and then next
my
thing
gosh,
I know,
yeah.
they're losing
Right.
or tied, and
In my opinion, that was one of the better games Sam Darnold has played all year. Now, to be honest, I haven't watched a whole lot of Jets games from start to finish. Yesterday, I didn't catch all of it, but I caught most of it, and yeah, he looked much better there than he has in some other games. The Texans, though, man, like they were looking good. Then all of a sudden, you're like, oh my gosh, they're going to lose to the Jets and lose 2 in a row.
yeah. Then we
then,
thought the wheels had fallen off, and then they
Deshaun
stormed
Watson,
back.
man, comes through. He's the real deal. I like him, and I'm happy for O'Brien down there, and their defense has it going. So J.J. Watt had been riddled with injuries for years now, and also when he was playing, he wasn't getting the numbers. That doesn't mean he's not producing, but he wasn't putting up the numbers. I think he has something like he has double-digit sacks this year. Like he's just a wrecking ball again. You have Jadeveon Clowney across from him. Like they're a fun team to watch again. And they've rebuilt that secondary. Remember, like maybe 5-6 years ago when the secondary was just lights
when they
out
were
down
doing
there.
things with Matt Schaub.
Yeah, and now
That was when Andre Johnson was at his
now
peak.
they finally gave O'Brien a quarterback. Finally, they're not playing like guys that transferred out of Pitt.
Well,
And
how
like,
crazy
good
is
things happen. Imagine that. When you don't start a Pitt quarterback.
They're 10-1 after starting 0-3. They've won 10 of their last 11, with
Yeah.
their only loss to the Colts,
Who are legit.
who are, other than their weird shutout against the Jags 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
That
Could cost them the playoffs.
Right.
Could. I
NFL
don't think it will.
is crazy.
I think they'll either win their way in or they will lose their way out. But like that game is kind of crazy.
How about the dog pound?
Dude, I picked it.
Going on the road, beating the Broncos, who a few weeks ago beat.
Dude, and
Who did they beat a few weeks? Was it the Chargers?
yeah, I think so.
Like 3
A
weeks
couple
ago.
Yeah.
And now they've lost like 2 or 3 in a row.
Right.
To
Everyone
supposedly
was
not
talking
great
about
teams.
Vance Joseph. It's Vance Joseph, there,
Yeah.
right?
Keeping his job and
Yeah, how he's going to save his job, and then nope. And this one, they pretty much said, I believe our I say friend, fellow Berks Countyan, Ross Tucker summed this one up like, that'll do it for Vance Joseph. Like in this one, they were up, or no, they were down 17-13 with a couple minutes left, and or a few minutes left, and they had the ball at the. I mean, it was more than like 1 or 2 minutes, but they had the ball at the 4, and
didn't go
they
for the touchdown.
kicked the field goal. They
Ouchie.
cut it to 1, and then they didn't. But anyway,
I bet Vegas is happy about
but
that.
man, the Browns are up 17-16, have 4th and 1 at like the 16-yard line, and go for it to try and end the game. Like this would have ended the game, and they don't get it, and they give the ball back to the Broncos, and the Broncos make some plays, but then just run out and didn't really get a shot at it.
So no Miracle on Mile High?
No, but like you're thinking, man, like, and I get the Browns have had kicking issues, but you can make it a 4-point game.
Well, we'll get to kicking issues when we talk about the game in Pittsburgh.
Oh my gosh!
But congratulations to the Browns, who I know entering today there was still a chance they could make the playoffs.
Yeah, but the Ravens. Well,
the Ravens won.
they didn't
Colts
get the help
won.
they needed, I think, today.
Yeah.
Although they had a chance to win the division still. I don't think they can win the division now,
They
but they
probably
might
needed-
still be
they
able to
probably
find their
needed
way
Baltimore and Pittsburgh to lose, which neither happened. So,
Right.
All right. So the game's on Sunday. Finally, Atlanta getting back on the right track, and the Cardinals coming back down to earth. Atlanta blows out Arizona 40-14. Tevin Coleman had 145 rushing yards, and
in. Matty Ice.
Matt Ryan finally came alive.
Rushing touchdown for me.
They're kind of a huge underperforming group.
Yeah, and there's talk that he could be in trouble.
Dan Quinn?
Yeah, Dan Quinn.
2 years was
A lot of
removed
people
from the
think
Super
what's
Bowl.
going to happen, though, is they think both coordinators are gone there and that Dan Quinn will still be around next year. Which I think so. I don't think the Falcons are in total reset mode. They just didn't have it this year.
Yeah.
But
Then
time's running out. The seat will be hot for Dan Quinn next year.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. We mentioned Ravens getting the victory over the Bucks today.
Lamar
Tampa Bay
Jackson.
kept it
And
close, but
reports that Flacco is done after this year in Baltimore. Between the contract and Lamar Jackson, I think they're going to kind of ride that one. Ravens looked kind of dead a few weeks ago. And now they're
they were
4-1.
4-5. They
Right.
were 4-5 at the time.
And Lamar Jackson has come in and gone 4-1 as the starter. And it's not pretty, but it looks like Ravens football. Like the defense is really good, and they don't necessarily have the studs that they had when they've had these teams in the past.
Yeah.
But yeah, whew. And if he's, I'm just trying to think if the Ravens, that's why the Steelers game was so huge today, because the Ravens would have jumped them. But the Ravens now with 8 wins and Lamar Jackson there, he doesn't have to be a prolific passer, but he needs to be better than he is right now. But he wasn't getting the first team reps up through, the first half of the season. So it'll be interesting to see with an off season, and that's another one. Has John Harbaugh done enough to save his job there? Because there's a lot of talk that he is.
I think so. That would be.
I think so too.
I think that would be.
I think he's one. If he gets let go, I think he would have a job soon.
Green
Although,
Bay.
That would be an interesting one.
So, a game that I'll be honest, I didn't see a lot of these games today. I wasn't around. So some of these scores I'm seeing for the first time. I thought Detroit had won that game.
Yeah,
so
they gave up a late touchdown.
Apparently
to the Bills.
not.
Yeah.
Buffalo beat Detroit 14-13, and of note, at least in the time I was watching part of this game, the Bills had 0 running backs left on their roster.
Yes. They were down their top 2, and then their next 2 got hurt, and they scored the touchdown from an empty set.
Well, sounds about right.
Right.
I'm happy
they did
about
have a
this.
fullback on the roster, though.
Right,
that they
yeah,
said
I
they were
heard
gonna
him
have to
say
line
that.
up, but
I'm happy about this because I took Buffalo over Detroit in the pool. So
did
this
I.
one is
So did I. I
this
took
one
that
makes
one.
me happy.
Yeah.
I'm happy with that. Although
there's another one. Josh Allen coming around.
Quiet,
Make some
yeah.
plays, man.
it'll be interesting to see what this quarterback group does. I mean, think about it. Lamar Jackson has been pretty good.
Yeah.
Josh Allen has his moments. Same thing for Rosen.
Yeah.
And even Sam Darnold, who's probably been the most inconsistent, but also maybe the brightest at times.
Yeah.
Whereas Lamar Jackson's
Right.
been the best by record.
Yeah, you could
But
kind of
throwing abilities doesn't match up the other 3 guys.
right.
But he's electric playmaker, Lamar
Right.
Jackson. So
Right. And it's not arm. It's not like he has a noodle arm.
No,
You
no,
know,
no,
like,
no.
Right.
It's
But,
more
like,
it's decision making,
right.
accuracy,
which
things
which
like
that can kill you though.
Oh, yeah,
Because
yeah,
You
in
get
the
a guy
long
who
run.
can fire the ball. You start like you don't understand why he can't make the throws. When you don't have the arm, well, it's obvious why he can't make the throws. He doesn't have the arm.
Yeah.
But then you have Baker too.
Right.
There. So
Oh yeah, jeez, completely forgot the number 1 pick. Just
Right.
completely forgot to even mention him in the conversation. So Green Bay kept it closer with Chicago than I think a lot of people expected under the interim head coach and on the road in Chicago. But Bears were able to get it done. They clinched their first division title since 2010. Good for them. Last time I think they were in the playoffs was that Jay Cutler interesting scenario where he took himself out of a playoff game. And he was talked about for the next few
for
weeks
the rest
on
of his
sports
career,
radio.
the rest of his career that came up.
So it does
Good for the
appear.
Bears. I'm happy for Matt Nagy.
Oh yeah,
LL
for sure.
guy.
LL guy, that's awesome. I did hear Scott in Red Zone, Scott Hansen calling Nagy.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's Nagy, isn't it?
Right, I am pretty sure it is Nagy, and the national pronunciation. I think that is a
is that a
South Central Pennsylvania pronunciation is a little different than the others.
All right.
And I could be wrong. But
so shout out to my Uncle Rich who's watching us live, and he was chiming in on the times we were stuttering with the Chiefs record and who they lost to. Obviously, we knew they lost to the Patriots. That was a great game.
That was a good game.
At the beginning of the season, but he's chiming in the chat, and I don't have much to brag about this weekend, but I had a pretty great weekend last weekend. So, I think maybe we'll have to pull up some video from last week at some point here.
Yeah, I think that's worth noting.
I think so. But let's try to get through some of these games here before I start reminiscing about the good old days that I had for about 15 seconds Sunday evening.
Listen, right now, if you want to talk about the good old days about our NFL teams, I'm okay with that. So.
Yeah, because yours is only like 300 some days ago.
Right, exactly. But it's about to expire, so I got to get it in.
I think this one was a little bit of a surprise just because I felt like the Raiders were staying competitive and upsetting some teams,
and the
Bengals were going the other way.
Couple weeks, right? And the Bengals were not. And here we
Cincinnati gets the better of them by 2 scores in Cincinnati. Oakland's now definitely pressing for that number 1 pick, and they've got an interesting scenario unfolding where their last game in Oakland could be on Christmas Eve and a primetime audience, and that could get ugly.
Yeah, there are now lawsuits between the city and there, and it's not going to go well. The Raiders don't have as of right now. The Raiders do not have a home for next year. Kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's interesting, but. I'm sure this will probably linger on throughout the spring and maybe even into this summer, and something get done at the last second because that's the way it always works out.
So you think they play in Oakland next year?
I would think so.
I would think so too, but I don't know.
How about a shocker here? We mentioned 2 weeks ago the Colts got shut out by the Jaguars, who look awful, in case you don't see that score right below there. They lost again today. But now the Colts put a stop to the Cowboys' streak of wins, which had been up to, was it 5?
I think it was 5, yeah.
In dominating fashion, beating them 23-0, and as you can see on the screen, if you're watching, this was the Cowboys' first shutout in over 15 years.
Yeah,
which is crazy to think about.
Yeah.
I mean,
they had their opportunities. They had a couple. They had like a 4th down inside the 10. They had a field goal that was blocked. Whatever could go wrong for the Cowboys today did go wrong. Which, it kind of evens itself out, because last week, anything that could go right for the Cowboys did go right.
Yeah.
That's all we need to say about that one.
But Dallas is still going to win that division. The Redskins are right there now. They're a game back, but they're with, a 3rd-string quarterback? 4th-string quarterback. Yeah, that's right.
4th string. They started a guy today who hasn't started a game in the NFL since 2011.
Was it Josh Johnson?
I guess they started him last week, but yes. No. He came in last week, I think. But he started today. Hasn't started a game since 2011 and led him to a win. They asked him, when he got the call, he went on Madden and started playing Madden so that he could learn his teammates' names.
That makes sense. That would work. So, he led the Redskins to a victory over the Jaguars. Now,
did you see this?
It's over the Jaguars.
Jalen Ramsey asked about Doug Marone's job safety.
Yeah, he doesn't care about anyone but myself. Yeah. That sounds about right.
I guess he might have said, I'm not worried about anybody but myself or something. But, yes.
Right.
Still.
But for sound clips on sports shows, that one will be played often, especially because,
what's the only thing really worthy of talking about for the Jags, because they're terrible.
About 4 months ago, everyone was talking about how he just trashed more than half the league's quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And now they're looking at the possibility of not even winning 5 or 6 games this year after being in the AFC Championship and being 8 minutes away from the Super Bowl last year.
Now, that team, they are full of bad decisions. They released Barry Church this week, who they just guaranteed $17 million to last year. It's just, I don't know. Tom Coughlin went not all in, but they stayed with. This was the quarterback class. Now, I know they were drafting late because they almost made it to the Super Bowl last year. This is the quarterback class, and they decided to stay with Blake Bortles, and that did not work out. And now they're learning Cody Kessler's not the guy either.
Well, yeah, but
and maybe you shouldn't have let your best wide receiver go to Chicago because
Yeah.
Allen Robinson is a monster up in Chicago right now.
So, unfortunately, my high from last week came to a crash in Minnesota today. And that actually, when
Now, did you pick this one?
when-
Did you pick the
I picked
Vikings?
Minnesota. I'm
Yeah,
not
I knew
stupid.
you did. I knew you did.
When I stopped watching this game to move on to do other things today, it was 24-17. So things got out of hand pretty quickly after
Well,
that.
it was 21-0 Vikings.
Oh, was it really?
It
See, I
was
didn't even know
21-0
that.
Vikings, and then Dolphins get a pick six.
They got
and
17
then they get
straight.
a big one. Right, they make it 21-17, and you're like, oh, here they come. And then they give up 20 in a row.
Well, this reminds me kind of the game against the Texans on Thursday night, right at the beginning of the Texans run, because like the Texans shot out to a lead, Miami came back, kept it close, and then all of a sudden, I woke up the next day and I was like, wow, that went
that
poorly
escalated
quickly. So, and I love that the NFL makes a note that this is Minnesota's first win against Miami since 2002, which only brings back the memory of that 2002 game because I can listen to that in the radio in my head over and over and over again because we were, I think, coming back from. I want to say my dad and I used to always go to a Flyers game right before Christmas,
Yeah.
and I'm pretty sure Miami was winning that game, and Dante Culpepper took them down the field and to either score a touchdown or kick a game-winning field goal that I think may have knocked the Dolphins out of the playoffs.
Was that before or after?
Before. I know exactly what you're going to say. Sorry, is Adam on the show with me?
No. It's fine. It's fine.
So, this one surprised me a little bit just because I thought the Giants
Had turned the corner.
and were looking better. I mean, I still favored the Titans, but I didn't think the Giants would be shut out with the way that Barkley had been playing. And was Beckham back? Did Beckham
No,
play?
he was
okay,
still
so
out.
he was still out. But
Eli,
even so,
Eli regressed. This
yeah,
week,
even so, I just thought the Giants had start to put some things together. And honestly, if they would have won, it wouldn't have been out of the picture for them to make a run at the division, depending on how Dallas and Washington and Philly would do.
Right.
Because they, sitting at 6-8 when the Cowboys are 8-6. Now maybe the tiebreaker scenarios don't work in their favor,
Right,
but
right.
now they're obviously out of it. Now they can't do anything, and they didn't deserve to. They were so terrible at the beginning of the year. But the Titans are an odd team.
They're not that good. But
They-
Derrick Henry has had a great 2 games. He rushed for well over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns today, and yeah.
Now, so this might be the most surprising one of all, just because
absolutely
we thought the Seahawks were a team to be afraid of in the NFC, and they go to San Francisco, a team that no one should really be afraid of.
Right.
But now San Francisco, I believe, won 2 in a row. Didn't they beat Denver last week?
Yeah.
In Denver, I think, too. And now they beat Seattle on a last-second field goal.
Man, they are really screwing up the wild card races.
Yeah,
aren't
that
they?
is crazy. That is a huge shock to me.
Talk about those 2 wins, though. Those 2 wins against teams that were in playoff races have taken them out of the driver's seat for the number 1 pick.
Yeah. Which, I mean, with them getting Garoppolo back, you would
when
think
you have the number 1 pick, though, and you don't need a quarterback, though?
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh, that's
either
the
you're going to get
situation.
a windfall, or you can find, an incredible defensive talent, probably.
Right.
But, yeah, I mean, now I think they're going to pick 3rd or 4th. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, the Cardinals and the Raiders are in front of them.
Right.
Who else would be up
Now,
there?
so the Cardinals aren't taking a quarterback either, though. They probably want teams that are taking quarterbacks ahead of them.
Yeah.
Although
yeah.
this isn't the year necessarily for the quarterback.
No.
But
All right, so let's get to this last game here at the bottom. This one was a huge shock to me because I said there was no way New England was going to lose 2 games in a row.
they already did it this season.
That-
I think they lost 2 in a row early in the season. I think.
Okay, then I'll say there's no way they're going to lose 2 games in a row this late in the season.
I would agree with that.
As you can see,
it doesn't happen.
As you can see at the bottom, this is the first time since 2002, when the Dolphins last lost to the Vikings, that the Patriots have lost 2 games in December. Obviously, we know what happened last week. But the way the Steelers have been playing, because they've lost, 3 in a row, and it should have really been 4. They never should have beaten the Jaguars a month ago.
Yeah. When the Jags lost that game, that's when the Jags quit, by the way.
Yeah,
I texted you that after that. I was like,
season over.
they quit. You could tell by their
They
faces.
beat the Colts, though, the next week, didn't they?
I know.
Isn't that the week they shut them out 6-0?
Yeah, oh my gosh. Flashbacks to when they beat the Bills in Week 1 of the playoffs last year, and you're like, oh my gosh, they're going to get murdered by the Steelers next round, even though they had beat them earlier in the year, and they go and they just destroy the Steelers. But yeah, if you would have told me there were 27 total points in Steelers Patriots, I would have been like in the first half.
Yeah, and someone that needed a huge game from Roethlisberger and Juju. Yeah. This was not helpful, and I did have Sony Michel benched, so that worked in my favor. Except none of my team did anything this week.
And Ben's one touchdown went to Vance McDonald,
right?
So
which it was on your roster.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe that when I pulled out 1 catch, 5 yards, 6 points. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
Yeah,
but I mean, there was no way I was gonna beat you this week because my team decided that after being red hot for 6 weeks, that today they were just like, nah, I'm done.
I appreciate that. So thank you.
Well, my dad's been texting.
All right.
The first one, he says he's not a Dak fan.
Okay.
He hasn't been. He thought his rookie year was a mirage, and that's kind of the way it looks. Although I can't say that they've really given him much help outside of Zeke.
Yeah, and Zeke wasn't really around a lot last year. And when he was, they won.
In terms of targets, because you had an aging Witten. Dez was fine with him that first year. He's fallen off, and, well, I mean, he was briefly with the team this year. But they have no wide receivers. No one really take over for Witten. And their line, which had been so powerful the last few years, had major injury issues this year. Their center hasn't played all year.
Right. In my opinion, this is obviously revisionist, but they wasted a lot of the prime of that line. I think that was when they had the chance to capitalize, and they haven't done it. But I mean, they've been doing okay, but like it's just one of those things. So.
Yeah. So he says, my dad says Dak Prescott's basically he's not going to take him to a Super Bowl title. He's not a Dak believer. So
I don't know that it's Dak. I think, and this kills me, but like as much as I think Dak is good enough if the rest of the team's in place, but I don't think they have all the pieces in place, and that can be guys that play on between the lines and guys standing on the sidelines and the guys signing the contracts and the paychecks. I don't think it's all there right now. And don't get me wrong, like I hope he's not the guy. You know, like that sounds. I'm rooting against him because he's a Cowboy, not because I dislike Dak Prescott. He's a likable guy. He seems like a good guy.
Well, you've seen that that kind of like it wasn't the My Wish series, but it was something similar to that, that profile. I think you shared it. That's how I watched it. He became good friends with the gentleman that does the art.
Yeah,
and I believe he doesn't have any arms.
Right.
He does everything with his feet.
Yeah,
which is incredible.
Right.
Like the stuff he was able to do. It's a really great video. It's only a few minutes long. Right. Justin shared it. I believe it was produced by ESPN, so you can search, an ESPN video with Dak Prescott and a unique friendship that he's made with an incredibly talented artist.
Absolutely. I just think they've got an incredible running back. They've got a good enough offensive line, even though there's been some ups and downs with the injuries there. I can see how, like, I can't say Dak definitively is the guy, though. Like, I don't know. There's just, I think there are some issues still there, and I'm okay with that. I hope those issues continue. So,
going back to our brief fantasy discussion, I know going into this weekend, my dad wanted to see me beat you, and my Uncle Bob beat Adam. The opposite has happened, so now he wants to know, who does he root for, Beavis or Butthead?
Beavis.
Spoiler alert, that's the direction it's going to go. I can tell you that for certain. So, yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to come up short. I feel like this is our 15th year or 14th year?
I don't know. It's a lot.
Well, we started in 2005, so this is our 14th season.
So you're telling me it's only a couple more years till our league is older than the students I teach?
I was going to say old enough to drive, because that's what I told you 3 years ago. Well, really, I guess, it was 3 years ago. It was 2015. The 2015 game that in 2 more years, the Navy win streak will be old enough to drive, and they haven't won since I said that.
Yeah.
So
good job.
Yeah. But so this is the 14th year. I think I've made the Final Four at least in 8 or 9 of those 14 years, but I've only won 2 championships. So I was hoping this was the year, and I said I won 6 in a row, and I think I put like 107 plus points up in all of those weeks. And now this week I finished with like 64. Fantasy football is crazy.
Yeah.
Can't figure it out. So, well, Eagles and Rams are close, early second. If the Eagles want any shot at making the playoffs, they have to win this game. The Cowboys losing today is a huge, huge help.
Except they're not going to win the division. They're not. Like, the Cowboys would have to lose out, I think.
Yeah, and I don't think
And the
Dallas'
Eagles have to
next
win
2
out.
opponents are
And-
that difficult.
right.
Indy might have been the toughest one they had
I
left.
think it is. And the Eagles have Houston next week. Now, it's in Philly, I think. Because they're at Dallas last week. They're at L.A. this week. They're not at Houston next week. That would be ridiculous. However, this is not why they lost the game. But I do love how they got to play Washington and Dallas back-to-back weeks with both of them having the mini bye coming off of playing the previous week's Thursday game. Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for that.
You're welcome. That was
So in all seriousness, though, okay, don't get me wrong. I'm not hoping the Eagles lose. However, there are many more upsides, in my opinion, long-term to the Eagles losing than there are to them winning tonight's game. First of all, they'll fall into at least 3rd place, and if the Giants can win some here at the end, maybe even 4th place in the division. That sounds terrible, but that's where they were 2 years ago, and that got them the schedule last year, which didn't turn out to be super easy. You know, they went to L.A., who was good last year, and things like that, but you know how that matches up. Teams change from one year to the next, but if you're the 4th place team, you play the divisions and stuff you play the teams that finished in 4th place this year.
Right.
Like, for some of those matchups and schedule making. So, in theory, you know, if they finish 3rd instead of 2nd, that's better. If they're going to miss the playoffs anyway. And if they finish 4th, you know, and all the while getting a higher draft pick. So instead of drafting between 15 and 20, maybe they're drafting between 10 and 15.
Right.
Now, I don't even know if they have this year's draft pick in the first round because they've traded away so much stuff. But, either way, it's not a fantasy draft. It's not snaked. You get that higher pick every time, you know, throughout the whole kind of way down. So,
Right.
all that being said, and also, you know, there's no need to bring Wentz back. I don't think they're going to, but there's no need to bring Wentz back in meaningless games and risk him actually being seriously injured when you can just kind of have him rest for a little bit and he'll be fine and ready to go in the offseason. He's only a year removed from his ACL tear now.
Right.
You know, and if you're off of that wagon, I hope you jump off the front so it can run you over next year.
Off
That's
of
basically
Wentz?
off the Wentz. Yeah, if
okay.
you're off the Wentz
Because
wagon,
I was like, I said they should put him on PUP and not bring him back.
oh no, yeah. That's what I'm like. There are people who are like, oh, you know, he's not the guy. Blah blah blah.
No.
If that's not you,
I'm
personally,
all
but-
about
right.
Carson Wentz,
If
so.
there are people in there, I want you to jump off the front of the bandwagon so it runs you over on the way to the Super Bowl next year. So.
Oh, wow. Big predictions right here.
Yeah.
So that wraps up Week 15. Obviously, we have the game going on tonight with the Eagles and Rams, and then the game tomorrow night.
Heck of a game, and they play again in 2 weeks. Panthers and Saints.
Oh, Panthers Saints. Yeah, I was
Sorry,
like, Eagles and Rams play again in 2 weeks? That's
that would be
interesting.
crazy. Yeah.
No, yeah, Panthers and
Yeah.
Saints. So, but we're at that time of year where like some teams haven't played a team yet, and they play them 2 of the final 3 weeks. And I believe every game in Week 17 is a divisional matchup.
Yeah, which
Miami
is
goes
awesome.
to Buffalo.
That was awesome.
Yeah, what a great move! One of the best moves that the NFL's made in a long time was that like 6-7 years ago,
Yeah.
something like that. But I'm gonna jump back here to Week 14. Just because I have to, because I want to watch this again, and yeah, let's enjoy.
And
Oh
here
my
we go.
gosh!
And wait for
The
it.
best part is
Wait
coming
for
up
it.
right here.
Wait for it.
And boom. And
Gronk.
Can't get him.
Whoop, oh,
Can't
the
get
15.
him. Oh gosh,
The 15
can't get
got
him.
him.
Nope. Yes. So good.
I love those two
Those
right
guys
there.
just
Looking
standing
at
there.
you like,
Oh man, what just
happened?
happened? Yeah, I don't know why the volume's not up. But, I mean, you get the gist. You get the gist. I mean, you get the important stuff right here. Incredible. And Justin was not the first one to notify me of what happened. I was at the Wilson football banquet, which started at 4, and this happened at about 4:10.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine texted me something that I'm not going to repeat. He is a Dolphins fan and season ticket holder. Then Justin called me about 5 seconds later. So right away, when the friend texted me, I knew Miami had won, but I didn't know how they had won. So Justin called me and basically was like, "Tell me you were watching the end of the Miami game." I was like, "No, I'm at the football banquet." He's like, "They won on a hook and lateral, sort of. It's not
Right.
exactly what you picture, but they got it done." And yeah,
That's about all I got out, and then I was speechless. Like I couldn't really
Yeah.
explain what happened. That doesn't happen, and that doesn't happen to the Patriots,
Right.
But however, you kind of called this when we talked before. If it was going to happen, it was going to happen to the Patriots in Miami in December.
Exactly.
Like,
That's become Miami's MO. Tom Brady and the Patriots have trouble in Miami. I believe his record there may be below 500 in his career.
might be.
I think he's like 7-9 or something, 7-10, something like that now. So that's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
That over the last however many years that we've had to go through this obnoxious Brady Belichick era, that they can't beat Miami in Miami, and for it to end like that, like ending on with no time left on an offensive play that's already considered a miracle. Then for it to happen against New England, even better.
So
and then for them to be wearing those throwbacks, that just put the icing on the cake.
How do you have Gronk in the game there?
Well,
Tannehill,
they thought it was going to be a bomb.
Tannehill was missed a month because of his shoulder. Like, he's not throwing the ball 70 yards.
My uncle texted good night. I don't think he wants to watch anymore. Although honestly, losing like that's a fluke. Like,
right.
Like New England won that game,
Which is why you were convinced they were going to win this week.
Well, see that if I'm a Patriots fan and getting real and not obnoxious about this game in Pittsburgh today is more worse than the game in Miami.
Heck yeah.
Because Pittsburgh was struggling. They've been no good recently.
And
they're beat up.
And short of blown coverage, the worst blown coverage you'll ever see. Chris Hogan couldn't have been more open on their touchdown. They didn't score another touchdown in that game.
Yeah.
They scored a touchdown on, their third offensive snap, and then didn't score. I mean, they got a field goal, but didn't score.
Well, New England all of a sudden is bad on the road.
Yeah.
I believe all 5 of their losses are on the road.
And they're in danger. Well, now they're in danger of not getting a.
They won't have a bye. I don't think they're getting a bye. Pittsburgh's got to keep winning, I guess.
Well, what? Yeah, except Houston.
Oh, Houston too.
Houston's the 2 seed now.
Houston's the 2, yeah, because Houston's 10-4. You got
think about that.
The Chiefs or the Chargers are both 11-3.
But
Houston's 10-4. Now Pittsburgh has.
Now you have Steelers and Patriots battling it out for who's going to play the Chargers or Chiefs in the first round.
Oh, right, depending on who doesn't win that division.
Now, Houston, that's a huge game against Philly next week for them.
Yeah. It's crazy.
So they've got to be rooting for the Rams hardcore.
Oh yeah.
If the Eagles lose to the Rams, they're mathematically eliminated, and therefore, you can have.
No, your dad just said in their last 7 played in Miami, New England's 1-6.
Wow.
It's kind of like ever since that was mentioned, like 5 years ago, like New England lost their last game here. It's taken on or their last 2 or whatever.
Yeah, but
it's
that's
kind of
crazy,
become this
that
crazy
doesn't happen
thing.
in New England. New England's the exception to those things.
Well, I read an article on The Athletic leading up to the game. I think it was by New England writers, but I got a notification because it talked about Miami at length. And I read the whole thing talking about, they interviewed Belichick and the staff and the people. So why does this happen? And they chalked it up. And I was like, well, now that this article's out, it's not going to happen. They're going to win the next 8 years in Miami. Yeah. And then that happened. They felt like they were over the hump, and then it got even worse. The hump got even bigger, and they fell back down the hill. Yeah. But obviously, this isn't the same New England team that we've seen in the last 15 years.
But I'll believe it when it happens.
But that's
in
the
the
thing.
Playoffs.
We're not at the second season yet, and sometimes the Patriots and Belichick are always doing this, where you think they're down and out.
And guess what you're going to start to hear a lot of this week is that the Patriots are done, Tom Brady's done.
It's over. Yep.
You know, like they'll make the playoffs, but they're no good anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the week you double down on that Super Bowl bet for the Patriots.
Right. Yeah. This is start hitting Vegas hard.
Yeah. So even though you went to bed, Rich.
Yeah.
we just told you your team's gonna win Super Bowl. So.
Congratulations.
Yeah, again.
And that's why we drink. All right. So I think that pretty much covers it. We talked about a lot, football related, college, NFL, fantasy.
Yeah.
A lot of good stuff. My plan is to have shows the next 2 weeks, so we get to talk about week 16 and 17, talk about clinching playoff scenarios, then actual playoff matchups, which 2 weeks from now we'll probably pretty much know, because actually we might know, because I don't believe there's a Sunday or a Monday night game the last week of the season.
I don't know.
I think they're all like Sunday afternoon and evening.
Yeah.
So we will basically know the
matchups. I
matchups.
thought last year, or one of the years, they flexed the Sunday night game down because it mattered. So like I think like if it doesn't matter, they may still play it that night. I don't know. But
So well, we'll see. But I think that's everything. Yeah. Any shout-outs or anything to mention here as we wrap up episode 267?
happy birthday to you this week coming up.
Thank you. Yeah, and we'll say happy birthday to my dad. We'll be celebrating this week as well.
This is the day before yours?
No, day after.
Okay. I knew they were back-to-back, but I
Yeah,
wasn't sure.
so mine's Tuesday, his is Wednesday. So happy birthday to my dad, who usually listens to us. And, you know, he's not always trustworthy or loyal when it comes to that. And I always call him out at work on Monday because I can always tell when he didn't listen. Obviously, he's listening tonight because he's been texting us.
So I get a text last Monday morning, and it's a text that required some phone savvy, not a ton, but some. And I immediately replied to Joey, because the text was not from Joey, but it was referring to the Cowboys-Eagles game. And I immediately text Joey, your dad just sent me,
A GIF.
all right, a GIF. I hate you, because I knew that Joey had to have helped, but...
There was something like, there's no way your dad sent that to me. I
Right.
hate you.
yeah.
And in my defense, it wasn't my idea.
No,
he asked me, he's like, can I have Justin's number? I want to text him. And so he handed me his phone, and I went to enter your number, and it was already in there. And what popped up was the last time we did this to you, which was on your birthday a year and a half ago, which was the same thing. He sent you, like, Go Cowboys on your birthday with a GIF or a picture.
Right.
And it was Des Bryant and the X. It was July 2017. And I was like, you already have his info in here because we texted him on your birthday, or on his birthday.
Oh,
so
man.
I sent you that great Cowboys gift. I just pulled up the built-in like Apple gift keyboard, and it was just like Dallas Cowboys, and it was like Good Morning Go Cowboys or something like that. And it was just four flashing boxes with the star in it. And I was just like, that's perfectly appropriate.
I got it. I immediately texted you. But
Yeah.
I had nothing to say. Like
Yeah, good times.
Yep.
So, well, next week we'll be back. I don't think we'll have anything specific to cover outside of the NFL. So it'll be all NFL Week 16.
Sounds good.
We'll get a pretty good clarity on the playoff picture. A lot more teams will have clinched at least a spot, if not divisions or wild card spots. We can start to iron out what it's going to look like come January. So 2 more shows in 2018 before we head to 2019, and we celebrate the end of our 8th and starting our 9th year of the show.
Wow.
Yeah, starting in 2011. So that's crazy.
No, that's crazy.
It's been fun. It's been
a lot of fun.
It's been enlightening, learning the process of producing all this kind of stuff, and it's helped me do it for another show this year. So that was a lot of fun, and but I think that's it. So thanks for joining us. This wraps up episode 267 on the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. Tune in every Sunday evening for our take on sports. Until next time, I'm Joe Mays. He's Justin Raffoff. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. Tune in every Sunday for the latest sports discussions from Joe and Justin. Each episode is available live
On Facebook Live.
and can be downloaded or streamed on iTunes and SoundCloud. You can interact with Joe and Justin on Facebook and Twitter. and stay up to date with the guys at joemaysandjraff.com. The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is part of the JMNJR Radio Network. For more info, visit jmnjrradio.com.